Lieutenant Samuel Wright yawned as he stared at the scanning displays. Another quiet shift at Trident Base, the lonely human outpost orbiting Neptune. The year 2187 had brought many wonders to humanity. Colonies on Mars and Venus, mining operations throughout the asteroid belt, and contact with 3 alien civilizations. But here, at the edge of human territory, life was mostly boring. Samuel sipped his coffee and adjusted the long-range sensors. He had 14 more hours before his replacement arrived. The blue glow of Neptune filled the view screen to his left, its storm swirling in endless patterns. The scanner beeped. Samuel sat up straight, suddenly alert. Something had appeared at the edge of the solar system. One moment nothing was there. The next moment something was. That wasn't normal. Ships didn't just appear. They came from somewhere. Computer. Analysis of object at bearing 047 Mark 32. Samuel said, his finger tapping the strange reading. Object appears to be a vessel of unknown origin. The computer replied in its calm voice. Approximately 1.4 kilometers in length. Unable to determine mass or composition. Samuel frowned. Even the most advanced alien ships registered their basic properties on scans. He opened a communication channel. Unidentified vessel. This is Lieutenant Samuel Wright of Earth Fleet Trident Base. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. No response came. Samuel tried again on all frequencies, including the standard channels used by the Zorax, the Mire, and the Elders. The 3 alien races of the Interstellar Council. Still nothing. He zoomed in the visual scanners. The ship was completely black, seeming to absorb all light that touched it. It was visible only as a ship-shaped hole against the stars. Base Commander to control room. What's happening, Lieutenant? The sleepy voice of Commander Judy Benson came through the speaker. Ma'am, we have an unidentified vessel that just appeared at the edge of the system. It's not responding to hails. I've never seen anything like it. Within minutes, the command center filled with officers. They watched as the black ship began moving, slowly but deliberately, toward the inner planets. Send word to Earth Fleet Command immediately, Commander Benson ordered. Full data package, highest priority. 6 hours later, Admiral Lisa Coleman of Earth Fleet Command called an emergency meeting. The giant screens showed representatives from all 3 alien races. None of them looked happy. This vessel must be destroyed immediately. The Zorax ambassador's scales flashed red with alarm. We cannot allow it to enter populated areas. The Mire agree, buzzed their representative, a tall insect-like being whose antennae trembled. This presence is unacceptable. Only the elder representative remained calm, but their ancient eyes held something Samuel had never seen in them before. Fear. What do you know about this ship? Admiral Coleman asked directly. You all clearly recognize it. None of the aliens would answer directly. They spoke of dangers and risks, but offered no concrete information. Back at Trident Base, Samuel tracked the black ship as it passed Neptune's orbit. It made no aggressive moves, didn't change course, didn't respond to any attempts at communication. It's just passing by, he told Commander Benson. Like we're not even here. Maybe we're not important enough, she replied. Reports came in from across the solar system. Earth's governments were trying to prevent panic, but word was spreading. A mysterious alien vessel was heading toward the heart of human territory. Admiral Coleman issued orders. Observe but do not engage. Despite protests from the alien representatives, she refused to fire on a vessel that had shown no hostility. We don't shoot first, she told them firmly. That's not how humanity operates. As Samuel ended his shift, he looked once more at the black ship, now a small dot on his display, moving steadily inward. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The emergency meeting room of the Interstellar Council hummed with nervous energy. Dr. Alan Powell studied the faces of the alien representatives. As Earth's top expert on alien biology, he could read their stress signs clearly. The Zorax ambassador's scales rippled with dark colors. The Meyer representative's compound eyes pulsed rapidly. Even the normally calm elder delegate sat unnaturally still. "We demand immediate action," said the Zorax ambassador, pounding a clawed hand on the table. "The black ship cannot be allowed to proceed." Grace Martins, Earth's chief diplomat, leaned forward. "We need more information before we take any action. You all recognize this vessel, yet none of you will tell us what you know." The room fell silent. Grace had always been good at asking the hard questions. "It is difficult to discuss," the elder finally said, voice crackling with age. "In our history, this ship appears only in times of great change." In the corner of the room, Intelligence Officer Jack Bennett frowned at his datapad. He had been searching through classified files since the black ship appeared. The council races were hiding something. Each civilization had records going back thousands of years, yet they shared only limited information with humanity. "Ambassador," Jack said, addressing the Zorax, "our records show your fleet mobilized against a similar vessel 87 years ago. What happened then?" The Zorax ambassador's scales turned pale. "How did you access those records?" Admiral Coleman stepped in. "The question stands. We need to know what we're facing." The Zorax looked at the other aliens, then sighed. "The ship appeared in our home system without warning. We attempted to capture it, to learn its secrets. And," Grace pressed, "our fleet was destroyed. 37 ships, gone in minutes. The black ship didn't even slow down. It scanned our planet, then left." Jack noticed the Meyer representative shaking slightly. "The Meyer have encountered it too, haven't they?" The insect-like alien's antennae drooped. 3 times in our recorded history. It judges. That is all we know." "Judges what?" Dr. Powell asked. "Worthiness," whispered the elder. "It determines which species may continue to evolve, and which must not." The human representatives exchanged worried glances. "That's why you're all so afraid," Grace realized. "You believe it's here to judge humanity." The aliens didn't respond, but their silence was answer enough. A junior officer hurried into the room and handed Admiral Coleman a message. Her face turned grim as she read it. "The black ship has changed course. It's heading directly toward Jupiter." The Zorax ambassador stood abruptly. "We must return to our homeworld. If the judgment begins, you're running away." Jack asked in disbelief. "We are protecting our people," the Zorax replied without shame. On the main view screen, they watched as the black ship accelerated. Its movement was smooth, purposeful. It knew exactly where it was going. "What's at Jupiter?" Grace asked. "Research stations, mining operations, about 15,000 people," Admiral Coleman replied. "And Europa base." The Meyer representative suddenly disconnected their communication link without warning. A moment later, the Zorax did the same. Only the elder remained. "We will observe from a distance," they said. "The black ship's pattern is always the same. It tests, it judges, it decides. If you are found worthy, it will offer a choice. If not, what?" Dr. Powell asked. The elder's ancient eyes looked tired. "Then humanity joins the list of species who once existed." Jack checked his data pad as it pinged with new information. "Admiral, Europa base is reporting unusual energy readings from the black ship. It's scanning them." Admiral Coleman stood up. "Prepare a shuttle. We're going to Jupiter." As they left the chamber, the elder called after them. "It will not respond to threats or pleas. The black ship acknowledges only one thing: truth." Daniel Foster pressed his face against the viewport of Europa base, watching as the black ship settled into orbit around Jupiter. The massive gas giant's swirling storms seemed small compared to the vessel that now circled it. Daniel had spent 5 years on this frozen moon studying extremophile life forms in Europa's subsurface ocean. Now all his research seemed unimportant. "It's just sitting there," Olivia Scott said, joining him at the window. As the base's chief engineer, she understood machines, Not aliens. Why isn't it doing anything? It is doing something, Daniel replied. We just don't know what. Their instruments detected strange energy pulses coming from the black ship. The pulses penetrated Europa's icy crust, reaching down into the ocean below. It's scanning, Daniel realized. It's studying the life in the ocean. Major Peter Clark called all staff to the main hall. The military commander looked tired but alert. Earth fleet will arrive in 6 hours, he told the nervous crowd of scientists and support staff. Until then, we maintain normal operations. Do not attempt to communicate with the vessel. Do not take any unauthorized actions. As the meeting ended, Olivia pulled Daniel aside. Come with me, she whispered. I have something to show you. In her lab, Olivia had modified a quantum scanner, a device normally used to study molecular structures. Standard sensors can't penetrate the black ship's hull, she explained, but this might. It uses quantum entanglement to bypass physical barriers. Daniel looked worried. The major said no unauthorized actions. Do you want to sit around waiting to be judged? Olivia asked. Or do you want to understand what we're facing? After a moment of hesitation, Daniel nodded. They aimed the scanner at the black ship and activated it. For 3 seconds, data flowed into their computer. The scanner showed impossible things, spaces that were bigger inside than outside, corridors that looped back on themselves in ways that defied normal geometry. This can't be right, Daniel said, staring at the readings. Then the scanner sparked and died. Its circuits burned out. Olivia downloaded the data just before the system crashed. We got something, at least. An alarm blared through the base. Major Clark's voice came over the speakers. All personnel to emergency stations. We have movement from the black ship. Daniel and Olivia rushed to the command center. On the main screen, they saw a small craft detach from the black ship. It was heading directly toward Europa. It's coming here, Major Clark said grimly. Defensive positions, everyone. The soldiers readied their weapons, though Daniel doubted they would do any good against something that could destroy 37 Zorax warships. The small black shuttle landed on the icy surface near the base's main airlock. They all waited for something to happen. Minutes passed, then hours. No movement, reported a nervous technician. No signals. Nothing. After 48 hours of tense waiting, Major Clark made a decision. We need to know what's in that shuttle, he said. I'm forming a contact team. Daniel and Olivia volunteered immediately. They joined the major and 3 soldiers, all wearing sealed environmental suits. As they approached the shuttle across Europa's icy surface, Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. No one in human history had made direct contact with whatever controlled the black ship. The shuttle sat silently on the ice. It had no visible doors or windows, just smooth, light-absorbing material. How do we get in? One of the soldiers asked. As if in answer, a section of the shuttle's hull simply vanished, revealing an opening. It wants us to enter, Daniel said quietly. Major Clark nodded. Stay together. No one touches anything without my permission. They stepped inside, lights from their suits illuminating the interior. What they saw made them stop in amazement. The shuttle's single chamber contained objects, hundreds of them, arranged carefully on shelves and pedestals. Daniel recognized artifacts from Earth, a clay pot, an ancient coin, a 20th century computer chip. But there were many more items he'd never seen before, clearly not from Earth. These are from different civilizations, Olivia whispered. Some must be from species we haven't even met yet. In the center of the chamber, a light flickered and formed into words that hung in the air. Tribute accepted. Assessment continues. The team stared at the glowing words hanging in the air. Tribute accepted. Assessment continues. The message faded after a few seconds, leaving them in silence. What tribute? Major Clark asked, looking around at the collection of artifacts. We didn't give it anything. Olivia moved closer to one of the shelves. Maybe it took something already. our data, our scans, maybe even our radio signals. Before anyone could respond, the entrance to the shuttle sealed itself shut. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Daniel held up his hand. Wait, I don't think it's trapping us. I think it's... The floor beneath them lit up with a soft blue glow. A humming sound filled the air. Everyone hold on to something, Major Clark shouted. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, rising from Europa's surface. Through small windows that had not been visible before, they watched the icy moon grow smaller. It's taking us to the black ship, Olivia whispered. But the shuttle changed direction, heading not toward the black ship, but back to Europa base. It landed gently by the airlock, and the entrance opened again. It's letting us go, Daniel said in surprise. They hurried back into the base, where Admiral Coleman had just arrived with Grace Martinez, Jack Bennett, and Dr. Powell. What happened out there? The Admiral demanded. As Daniel explained their experience in the shuttle, Susan Miller, the base's linguist, studied the recording of the message. This is fascinating, she said. It's in perfect universal standard, the diplomatic language of the Council. But there are subtle differences in the syntax. What kind of differences? Grace asked. It's like an older version, more formal. The Council's language was established only 50 years ago, but this feels like it's been refined over centuries. So whatever controls the black ship has been watching us for a very long time, Jack concluded. The shuttle that had brought them back to the base suddenly lifted off again. It returned to the black ship, which began to move, leaving Jupiter's orbit. Where is it going now? Admiral Coleman asked. The tracking systems showed the new course. Mars, Major Clark said grimly. It's heading directly for Mars. Susan looked up from her work with a worried expression. I've analyzed more of the data you collected with your scanner. There's something else hidden in the message, a second layer. She displayed it on the main screen. Behind the words they had seen, deeper code revealed more. Evaluation of species 4672b continues. Potential. Uncertain. Risk. Significant. We're 4672b, Dr. Powell realized. They've cataloged us. Admiral Coleman contacted Earth Fleet Command. Soon, Commander Frank Warren of the flagship Determination appeared on screen. We're mobilizing everything we have around Mars, he reported. 8 million colonists are there. We can't evacuate them all in time. Don't take aggressive action, the Admiral warned. This thing destroyed dozens of Zorak's warships without slowing down. As they watched the black ship's steady progress toward Mars, Jack received an urgent message. Admiral, the Elder's representative is requesting a private meeting with you. They say it's about the black ship's true purpose. Admiral Coleman nodded. Set it up. The others continued analyzing the data from the shuttle. Daniel studied images of the artifacts they had seen. Some of these aren't from any civilization we know, he said, pointing to strange objects with impossible geometries. Maybe they're from extinct species, Olivia suggested. Susan looked up from her work. Or species that failed the assessment. The base shook slightly as the shuttle that had brought Admiral Coleman and the others docked again. We're heading back to Earth, the Admiral announced, entering the room. All of you are coming with us. We need the best minds working on this. What did the Elder tell you? Grace asked. Admiral Coleman's face was grim. That the black ship has appeared throughout galactic history, always before major shifts in power. And that what happens at Mars will determine whether humanity has a future. The red planet Mars glowed against the blackness of space. Around it, 23 Earth warships formed a defensive line. Commander Frank Warren stood on the bridge of the flagship Determination, watching as the black ship approached. All weapons systems ready, sir, his second-in-command reported. Hold fire unless I give the order, Frank said firmly. We defend, we don't attack. On the surface of Mars, panic spread through the colonies. Governor Natalie Rogers tried to maintain order as people rushed to the spaceports. We can't evacuate everyone. She told her staff, "There aren't enough ships." The video screens around Mars Colony Central showed the black ship as it approached. It was even more impressive up close, a perfect shape that seemed to bend the light around it. "It's stopping," someone shouted. The black ship had halted just beyond the defensive perimeter. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then a signal began broadcasting on all frequencies. Back on Earth, Admiral Coleman gathered her team in the command center. Daniel, Olivia, Susan, Jack, Grace, and Dr. Powell watched the screens showing the standoff at Mars. "What's it doing?" Grace asked as the signal appeared on their monitors. Ryan Diaz, a young cryptographer who had joined their team, studied the transmission. "It's not language. It's mathematics. The signal contains sequences of numbers and symbols, repeating in patterns." "These look like evolutionary algorithms," Ryan said with growing excitement. "Mathematical models of how species develop and change." Before anyone could respond, the black ship fired a beam of energy toward Mars. Everyone tensed, but the beam wasn't aimed at the colony. Instead, it struck Phobos, one of Mars' small moons. "What just happened?" Admiral Coleman demanded. The observation satellites showed a pattern carved into the surface of Phobos. Perfect geometric shapes formed a symbol visible from the Martian surface. "I've seen this before," Daniel said suddenly. He pulled up images from his research. This symbol was found in ancient ruins on Earth, and Mars, and on 3 other worlds. "What does it mean?" asked Olivia. "No one knows. It predates all known civilizations." The elder representative, who had accompanied them to Earth, looked at the symbol with recognition in their ancient eyes. "It is the mark of judgment," they said quietly. "The black ship has begun its evaluation." "Evaluation of what?" Jack asked. "Our defenses, our technology." "Of your worthiness," the elder replied. "Your potential as a species." On Mars, the colony sensors detected a new signal, millions of tiny objects released from the black ship, spreading out like dust. "They're entering our atmosphere," Governor Rogers reported to Earth. "They're sampling our air, our soil, our water." Frank's ships maintained their positions, weapons ready but unused. "The tiny probes are scanning everything," he reported, "but they're not harming anything or anyone." Ryan continued studying the mathematical sequences. "These aren't just evolutionary algorithms. They're questions." "Questions about what?" asked Dr. Powell. "About how species interact, compete, cooperate." Ryan's eyes widened with understanding. "It's asking how we handle conflicts, resources, survival situations." The elder nodded. "The black ship judges not just what you are, but what you might become. Whether you will be builders or destroyers in the galaxy." Admiral Coleman looked troubled. "And what happens after the judgment?" "For some, extinction," the elder said. "For others, a test. And for the worthy, inheritance." "Inheritance of what?" Grace asked. The elder pointed to the black ship on the screen. "Of that. Of its power. Of its purpose." The patterns on Phobos suddenly glowed with inner light. The tiny probes returned to the black ship, which began to move again. "It's leaving Mars orbit," Frank reported, relief in his voice. But the relief was short-lived. The black ship's new course was clear. "It's coming to Earth," Admiral Coleman said. "The final judgment is coming here." News of the black ship's approach spread across Earth like wildfire. Despite government efforts to prevent panic, people filled the streets of major cities. Some prayed, some protested, some partied as if the world might end tomorrow. In the secure underground command center, President Michelle Davis met with Admiral Coleman and the crisis team. The black ship was now just beyond the moon, moving slowly but steadily toward Earth. "What are our options?" the president asked, her face tired but determined. "The Zoracs have offered us advanced weapons," Jack said, reading from his datapad. "Experimental planet killers they claim could destroy the black ship." "And the Meyer suggest immediate surrender," Grace added. "They believe resistance will only make the judgment harsher." President Davis looked at the elder, who had remained with the human team. "And your people, what do they recommend?" "We offer no recommendation," the elder said. "Each species must face judgment in their own way. Your choices define you." Ryan burst into the room, his young face excited. "I've decoded more of the transmissions. There's something hidden in the mathematical sequences." He displayed his findings on the main screen. Embedded in the complex patterns were words in an ancient language. Judgment, worthy, inheritance. Susan translated, her eyes widening. The same words the elder mentioned. "There's more," Ryan said. "The black ship has been here before." "What do you mean?" Admiral Coleman asked. "Some of these sequences contain Earth data, geological and biological information, from thousands of years ago. The black ship visited Earth in our prehistoric past." The elder nodded slowly. "It visits all worlds with potential multiple times throughout their development. It watches, it waits, it decides." Through the windows, they could see the crowds outside growing larger and more frightened. Military forces were deployed to maintain order, but fear was spreading faster than they could contain it. "We need to make a decision," President Davis said firmly. "Do we fight? Do we surrender? Or is there another way?" Daniel had been quiet, studying the data Ryan had decoded. "What if we just talk to it?" Everyone looked at him in surprise. "Every action the black ship has taken so far has been about gathering information," Daniel continued. "It hasn't harmed anyone. It's studying us, learning about us." "How do we talk to something that won't respond to our communications?" Olivia asked. "We go to it," Daniel said simply. "In person." Admiral Coleman shook her head. "That's too dangerous. We have no idea what." "I agree with Daniel," President Davis interrupted. "If this is truly about judgment, then let's show them who we really are. Not through weapons or surrender, but through direct communication." The military advisors objected strongly. The Zorax ambassador, who had rejoined the discussions, warned that approaching the black ship would be suicide. "You don't understand its power," the Zorax insisted. "Our greatest warships were destroyed in seconds." "Because you attacked it," Grace pointed out. "We're proposing a peaceful mission." After hours of debate, President Davis made her decision. "We will send a single unarmed vessel. Volunteers only." Daniel, Olivia, Ryan, and Susan stepped forward immediately. Admiral Coleman joined them. "I'll lead the mission," she said. President Davis nodded. "Your ship will be called Olive Branch, a symbol of peace from human history." As preparations began, the black ship reached Earth orbit. It positioned itself directly above the United Nations headquarters in New York, casting a shadow over the building. The Zorax and Meyer representatives departed Earth, returning to their own worlds. Only the elder remained. "You are taking an unusual path," they told President Davis. "In 10,000 years, no species has approached the black ship willingly." "Then perhaps it's time someone did," she replied. "If humanity is being judged, let us be judged for who we truly are." The small vessel Olive Branch was prepared for launch. As the team boarded, they carried with them the hopes of humanity and the weight of a decision that might determine the fate of their entire species. The small ship Olive Branch rose from Earth, its engines glowing against the night sky. Billions of people watched on screens around the world as the vessel approached the black ship hanging in orbit. Inside Olive Branch, Admiral Coleman guided the controls with steady hands. Daniel, Olivia, Ryan, and Susan checked their equipment one last time. None of them wore weapons. They carried only scientific instruments and communication devices. "We're within 1 kilometer," Admiral Coleman announced. No response from the black ship yet. Daniel looked through the viewport at the massive vessel. Up close, its surface wasn't completely smooth as it had appeared from a distance. Subtle patterns covered it, like writing in an unknown language. "It's beautiful," he whispered. 500 meters, the Admiral said. Still no response. They had almost reached the black ship when a section of its hull suddenly changed. The light-absorbing material shifted, forming an opening. "I think that's an invitation," Olivia said. Admiral Coleman carefully maneuvered their ship toward the opening. "Last chance to change your minds," she told the team. No one spoke. They had come too far to turn back now. Olive Branch entered the black ship and sat down in a vast chamber. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Atmosphere is breathable," Ryan reported, checking the sensors. "Temperature normal. No radiation." They put on simple breathing masks as a precaution and exited their ship. The chamber around them was enormous, stretching farther than they could see in all directions. "Look," Susan gasped, pointing ahead. Before them stood what looked like a museum. Thousands of display cases containing objects from countless civilizations. Some they recognized: Zorak's art, Maya technology, Elder writings, but most were completely alien. "It's a record," Daniel realized, "of every species the black ship has encountered." They walked slowly through the displays. Some sections contained only a few artifacts, while others held thousands. Susan stopped before a case containing a simple clay pot. "This is human," she said. "It's from ancient Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years old." "The black ship has been collecting samples from Earth for millennia," Ryan said, "judging us across our entire history." They reached the center of the vast chamber where a circular platform stood. As they approached, the floor beneath them lit up, forming a path. "I think it wants us to go there," Admiral Coleman said. The team followed the lighted path to the platform. When they stepped onto it, a holographic display appeared around them. Stars, planets, galaxies, all moving in perfect harmony. "It's the universe," Olivia whispered, "or at least a model of it." The display zoomed in, showing Earth, then human history in rapid images: cave paintings, pyramids, ships, airplanes, space stations. Then it showed the Zoraks, Maya and Elders, and dozens of other species they had never seen before. "It's showing us our place in the galaxy," Ryan said. An interface formed in front of them, a simple panel of light. Admiral Coleman hesitated, then reached out and touched it. The chamber changed. The walls became transparent, revealing stars beyond. They could see Earth below them, beautiful and blue. Words appeared in the air before them. "The judgment is complete. The choice is offered." "What choice?" Daniel asked. The words changed. "To remain as you are, to join the failed, or to become stewards." Susan studied the words. "I think it's giving us three options: continue as we are, face extinction, or take control of the black ship," Admiral Coleman finished. The display showed images of previous civilizations. Some had chosen to remain as they were, continuing on their own path. Others had attacked the black ship and were destroyed. And a few, a very few, had become its commanders. "That's who controls the black ship," Daniel said with sudden understanding. "Species who pass the judgment. They become its captains, its stewards." "But why does everyone fear it?" Olivia asked. More words appeared. "Stewardship requires sacrifice. To judge others, one must leave one's own behind." Admiral Coleman looked at the interface, then at Earth below. "It's asking us to choose, for all of humanity." The team stood in silence, the weight of the universe pressing down on them. The team returned to Earth carrying both heavy knowledge and a weighty choice. In the Grand Meeting Hall of the United Nations, representatives from every nation gathered to hear their report. President Davis sat at the center table, her face serious as Admiral Coleman explained what they had discovered. "The black ship offers us three paths," the Admiral concluded. "We can remain as we are and continue our own development. We can refuse the judgment and likely face extinction, or we can accept stewardship of the ship itself." Murmurs filled the hall. The elder representative, the only alien who had remained on Earth, watched silently from a corner. "What exactly does stewardship mean?" President Davis asked. It means some of us would join the Black Ship, Daniel explained. We would become its new commanders, traveling the galaxy, evaluating other species as we were evaluated. But we would have to leave Earth behind. Olivia added. That's the sacrifice it requires. The debate lasted for days. Some nations wanted to reject the offer completely, to remain independent. Others feared the consequences of refusal. Military leaders argued about the power the Black Ship could give humanity. On the third day, Grace Martinez stood to speak. For thousands of years, we humans have fought among ourselves, she said. We've divided into nations, religions, races, but the Black Ship sees us as one species. Perhaps we should see ourselves that way too. What are you suggesting? Someone asked. Grace looked around the room. What if we propose something different? Something no other species has tried. President Davis leaned forward. Go on. The other races who faced this choice either accepted stewardship alone or rejected it entirely. Grace said, what if we suggest shared stewardship, not just humans, but representatives from all willing species working together? The hall fell silent as everyone considered this idea. The elder finally spoke. In 10,000 years of records, no species has proposed this. The Black Ship judges each race separately. Then maybe it's time for a change, Ryan said. The mathematical patterns I decoded weren't just about competition. They were also about cooperation, about how species can work together. President Davis stood up. I believe Grace is right. We will propose a new path to the Black Ship, collective stewardship. The elder warned that the other council races might not agree. The Zorax and Meyer had long histories of conflict and distrust. Then we start with those who are willing, Daniel said, and show the others what's possible. The next day, President Davis, Admiral Coleman, and the team returned to the Black Ship. This time, representatives from the elders came with them. To everyone's surprise, a small group of Zorax arrived as well. We wish to hear this new proposal, the Zorax ambassador said. It is interesting. On the platform at the center of the Black Ship, they presented humanity's answer to the choice. We neither accept nor reject stewardship as it has been offered, President Davis said to the interface. Instead, we propose a new way, shared responsibility among all willing species, not one race commanding the Black Ship, but many working together. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then new words appeared. Proposal unprecedented. Purpose of judgment, find worthy successors. Purpose of successors, guide galaxy toward harmony. The interface glowed brighter. Proposal, accepted. The Black Ship began to change. Sections of its hull transformed, becoming transparent like glass. Light poured in where darkness had ruled for millennia. 3 months later, Lieutenant Samuel Wright at Trident Base watched his scanner with amazement. The ship that had once been black was returning to Neptune. But now it glowed with inner light, no longer a source of fear, but of wonder. On the bridge of the transformed vessel stood a crew of humans, elders, and even a few Zorax. Admiral Coleman sat in the command chair, with Daniel, Olivia, Ryan, and Susan at various stations. Alongside them worked alien colleagues, learning to trust each other day by day. Next system charted and ready, Daniel reported. A young civilization just beginning to explore their solar system. Admiral Coleman nodded. Let's go meet them. Not to judge, but to invite. The ship that was no longer black, no longer feared, moved gracefully into the depths of space, carrying its message of hope to the stars.